Alright, it has been a minute since I've made one of these, but it is time for more shell tips and tricks, bash wizardry, whatever you want to call it, but essentially just fun stuff you didn't know about your favorite shells. So first of all, something for ZSH. You can actually play Tetris natively in ZSH without any external programs or anything. It's just in a module that's available. So if you go ahead and autoload-uz Tetris curses, we can then run Tetris curses, and we've got a game of Tetris here, and it's just arrow keys to move around. No Vim bindings, sadly, but yeah, right and left arrow. Up is going to rotate the piece, and then the down arrow is going to move the piece down. So yeah, this is just Tetris natively in ZSH, and before you go saying that ZSH is so bloated for having this, it's still a smaller program overall than Bash, so I think we can make a bloat allowance here for having Tetris available in ZSH. But yeah, this is pretty cool. I never knew about this until like a week ago, but yeah, it's an actual thing. And you're probably used to ZSH modules, just, loading them in your ZSHRC for, completion or colors or whatever. So this is just one of the other available modules. So next up, a command that you could run on any shell, but you probably shouldn't because it is going to crash your computer. So there is such a thing known as a fork bomb, and it's pretty much an infamous command known for recursively going over functions over and over and creating more and more processes. So how you do it is just colon, open parentheses, close parentheses, and then open bracket. And then we're gonna essentially, so we're defining a function there, just called colon. We're gonna take colon and then pipe it into itself, so pipe it into colon. And then we're gonna put an and to send it to the background. So that way this can just create more and more processes as it goes. We're gonna close that and then semicolon, colon to execute. And I'm not gonna run this because this actually will crash my computer. I did this on my laptop earlier just to mess around with it and check, and I couldn't even open htop. That's how many processes were spawned so quickly, and I did have to hardware reboot my laptop. So yeah, run this if you're trying to troll somebody. Don't run this on a computer that you do not want to reboot because you will lose your boot. It's not going to do, any permanent damage or anything though. But yeah, fun little classic trick there. Anyways, so next up, you might have noticed that my prompt actually looks very slightly different than normal, and that's because I've switched off of using Starship. I was previously using Starship to generate my prompt, which I actually really didn't need because I wasn't using any of the, exclusive features of it. All I wanted is actually available just directly in, native shells, so all I wanted was just using the date command here just so I could get this particular formatting of the time code. I'm actually going to switch over to Bash for this. I wanted to talk about how you can just use commands in your shell prompts because that was something I didn't know until recently. You can just use any command you want. So I've actually got a little bit of a hidden command here. If I try to run some, random string of letters, that's going to obviously fail because it's not a real command. Command not found. My arrow here is going to go red because that didn't work. And then if I run something, I don't know, clear, that's a real command, it goes back to green. So this is a little bit of hidden logic, and I've got this in my bash RC just defining the PS1 prompt here. Obviously this is just, a mess of color codes as PS1 prompts generally are. But I've got a command running here, and the command is just checking to see whether the command I, executed in the shell actually went through successfully or if it failed. And that's just using a native special variable, $? Is just checking the exit status of the last command. So if that's equal to 0, then that means the command went through successfully and, everything's good, checks out. So it's just using test here to see, is it going to be equal to 0? If it is, then echo my arrow character, logical, or if it's not, then just put a red color code, so red arrow. And that is one of the, various usages of having a command in your PS1 prompt. Obviously, I would caution you to not string together a bunch of intensive commands, since obviously this is getting executed every time your prompt appears, so you don't want something that's going to take forever. But another good example is, you could have a git branch command to show you if you're in a git branch. So if I go ahead and write this and then resource the file here, Well, I don't have, Git set up in my home directory. If I go into local src, I was working on slock earlier. So, yeah, I've got, master branch here. And then if I go back a directory, no git branch there. But yeah, obviously this is running the git branch command every time, I press enter here, every time I do something. So I would just, if you are going to put commands into your PS1 prompt, keep it, simple to commands that aren't going to take forever to execute. Anyways, exiting out of bash here and back to ZSH, back to home here. Anyways, I wanted to next show a little bit of eye candy that is pretty useful in scripts, actually. Nice little spinning progress bar thing there. Yes, it's just, decorative, but that is pretty useful if you ever have a script that's, gonna take 10 minutes to do something, like say you're trying to copy a bunch of files or something, and you do want to just have, like, something animated to show that your computer didn't crash, right? The script is still running. It's nice to have, small little animations like that. Not really too distracting, but does just show you, yeah, the script is still live. So if I go ahead and open up scripts spin here, and of course I can't take credit for this because this is, kind of a classic little trick to do, but essentially all that's going on is we've just got a while true and then do done just to infinite loop it, make sure that the animation stays looped, and we're just echoing the characters one after another. We're iterating over this list of characters, so / dash, escaping the backslash and escaping the pipe, just because we don't want those to get processed by the shell. We want those to just be normal characters. And the only other thing of note here is just on the echo, the -en and then the \r for the carriage return. That's just making sure that these characters are actually going over each other so it looks like an animation rather than printing out in a line, because if they were, printing out in a line, then obviously it wouldn't look like an animation. And then the sleep 0.1 here, that's just going to be the speed of the animation. So you could change that a little bit, but I think 0.1 looks good enough. So yeah, that's a nice little spin animation. And I will stick this script here on my GitHub if you wanted to just go pull that one-liner and stick it in any of your scripts. Nice little fun eye candy to have in a script. Why not, right? Next up, more of a historical Easter egg rather than a shell Easter egg in particular. So the cal command, you probably know it. It's just going to print a calendar by default just of the current month, or you could give it, a year number and it's going to give you a full calendar of that year. So the year 1, here's a calendar of the year 1. But what you might not know is the year 1752 is a bit of a special year. So if I do cal of 1752, you might notice there's something weird going on here, which is that September is missing a bunch of days. If I actually look directly at September of 1752, we're missing days. And what actually happened here is this is when the British Empire adopted the Gregorian calendar. So this is the historical event that led to the cal command having a bit of an oddity in the year 1752. So this, I guess, doesn't really have anything directly to do with the shell. It's just cool that you can actually just see that with the cal command. Weird little interesting bit of history there for you. Alright, back to actual shell stuff. So the touch command, you probably know this command. One of the most common uses is just for creating blank files, even though that's not really the intended use. The intended use is, well, updating the access and modification times of files. But most people, just use it to create a blank file if you ever need to do that. But you don't actually need the touch command to do that at all. You can just do it directly in the shell. So if you just do colon and then angle bracket, and then you just give it a file name of your choice, that is going to touch a blank file for you without the touch command, and I could just remove that file. You can see I can tab the file there. It's there. So yeah, you can do that directly in your shell. You do not need the touch command to create blank files. Alright, the last thing I wanted to show is just how to have a quick little animated digital clock in your shell. There's a bunch of ways to do this, but this is probably the simplest way. So while true, do clear date, and then we can give it %t, just because that's probably what we want to be watching here, since that's going to have seconds on it. So %t, and then sleep 1, and then done. And we're going to have a nice little clock, which is actually pretty useful, just because I don't like having seconds displayed in my DWM blocks bar here. But I might, need to watch seconds for whatever reason at some point. So it's nice to have, quick little easy way to do that directly in your shell. Quick little one-liner. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed these tricks. I'll see you next time. Peace!